Hey, everybody. Hope you're doing good.
Hey.
Welcome to another edition of the SeedTime Money Podcast.
Here we are.
And
back again.
Linda's just yelling at me because yesterday I decided to make butter. I know I'm going all Little House on the Prairie on you, but...
Bob wants to homestead. I just don't. I don't.
So I made butter.
I want the benefits of it. I just don't want to do it.
Yeah, well... Anyway, so our kids are going through a homeschool curriculum where we're learning a lot about different farms and stuff like that. So all that to say, we went through a dairy version and we made yogurt. We inadvertently made sour cream, basically. And we also made butter yesterday. And I put some honey and cinnamon in it. And we're going to taste it after this. Melt it on some fresh sourdough bread.
So what Bob did, which is all great. I love all that. Although when I went to go clean up this mess, I just put my hands in to start cleaning, and it was just like butter all over my hands. I'm like, what is this? What did you do?
Well, I'm sorry, hon.
I went in the laundry room, and I was like, it smells so bad in here. I washed the laundry. I'm like, that'll be fine. I take this one towel out. I'm like, this still smells so bad. Like, what the heck is this? And Bob's like, it's milk. Yeah. It had milk all over it, and then he just let it sit there, stuck it in the washing machine, and was like, Linda will take care of it.
No, the washing machine is going to take care of it, not you, darling. But anyway, this is the price.
You have to wash it in order for the washing machine.
This is the price you pay for making butter, okay? This is what you have to go through if you want to make butter.
This is why I told you I wanted the benefits, but I didn't want to actually do it.
Yeah, well,
know what I'm saying?
But anyway, butter is messy. Okay, if we haven't made that clear enough. So you put it in the KitchenAid mixer, you put the cream in there, stir it up, it becomes, whipped cream first, and then you just keep going, stir forever, butter. And then it turns into butter. But meanwhile, it just splatters everywhere. So which is why there was a towel over the KitchenAid.
I really don't mind. I just would have loved a heads up because I'm like, this smells like absolute garbage. Why is...
Anyway... I was trying to keep the kitchen clean, which is why I had a towel over it. So I was trying to make things better. But
you did. You made things better. I just would have loved a heads up on the real stinky.
Anyway, so...
Did you know it would smell that bad, though? You probably didn't.
Oh, I had no idea. At the sake of this not turning into a homesteading or butter making podcast, we do actually have something I think pretty important to talk about that we're going to move into. So, are we ready to transition?
Yes, we're ready. Let's move on.
Talking about something important. So... just the other day, part of our story and testimony, and God's done a lot of things in our lives, but one of the things that he's done is he helped us pay off our mortgage like insanely fast. You've probably heard our story. We talk about it all the time. I feel like we're telling the story all the time. And it's our story, but it's what God did. And so that's why I love sharing it, And anyway, and so the story has gotten some traction, like on Instagram. We had a reel that kind of went viral, kind of about it. And so there's tons of comments, tons of different people seeing it. Yeah. Different life experiences and all this. And
so, not just followers.
So anyway, we just got comments on this the other day that I'm like, oh, this is interesting. We probably need to talk about this. But so this person said, weird how your God cared more about your mortgage than child cancer, child abuse. I'll leave the other part out. Your God helps with superficial, selfish prayers, but doesn't save kids. #hard pass. And anyway, and so I read that, and my heart goes out to this person. Like, I don't know their experience, and I loved your response.
The comment is written is that I don't think that this is someone who knows God.
Yeah, and that was your first response is, let's pray.
Yeah.
But what's interesting to me is like looking at that one particular post. I mean, there are hundreds of people who are like, praise God, that's awesome, blah, blah, blah. So excited about that miracle. I'm waiting for my own miracle, whatever, like all this. And then there's a handful of comments, honestly, that fall into this category where I would say something similar to this. So I just wanted to address it because I think it's a valid question to ask and to point up. And I will be the first to admit that, like, I don't have the answers to all of her doubts or questions or anyone else's. But I do have some thoughts that I would like to share in this episode here. So the first one...
We need to. Well, I would like to address one thing real quick. The way that I view these comments, hopefully the way you view this too, but I don't want to speak for you, is that if we are having a video where people are seeing it that are not like excited about our content, or even if they are excited about most of our content but don't like all of it. One time I heard that once the best thing that someone can do is make a Christian angry. And the reason is because the Bible tells us to pray for our enemies. And so while I wouldn't necessarily be like, yeah, this person's my enemy, they might think that we are their enemy. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And the best thing that we can do is to actually pray, because God is the one who can reach out to this person and change his or her heart, right? And that's what all of us as believers should ultimately be after, is not that they would agree with us, but that they would come to know God and end up with us in heaven. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So it's like, it doesn't matter if we agree or not. That's okay. I can handle that. But Christian or non-Christian, honestly, this is a super important thing. So if you are a person who often gets comments from other people that are rude, whether they are on social media or in person, our job is to start praying for that person.
Yeah. And I love that was your first response. I'm like, yeah, you're right, hon. You're right. Good job.
No, God has taught me that through a series of events and a series of messages. And it's, because it's easy to hold on to stuff like that and be like, whatever, they don't know what they're talking about. Yeah. Because I think if they did understand what we understand, they would agree with us. Yeah. But, anyway, it's our job to pray.
So, and the first point that I wanted to make is that we share her frustration about sickness, about child abuse, and there have been many times where we have been in tears together about those issues. Mm-hmm. And, in areas where our hearts are breaking for injustice in that area. So it's not... So just because we're excited that we got our house paid off and that God answered our prayer in this area doesn't mean that we don't care about those other things, And if it were up to me, to be honest with you, I would so much rather save a trafficked child than have a paid off mortgage, But the fact is that we don't have that opportunity to make that trade. Like I can pray for both of those things, and we are praying for both of those things. But that leads to the second point, which is that I believe the reason that God was interested in us being debt-free is so that we could help be the answer to those bigger issues. Right. Because the fact is that having a paid off house, once we did that, we immediately reduced our expenses by about $2,000 a month. Mm-hmm. And this allowed us to greatly increase our giving to organizations that are directly solving those problems. Yeah. And so to date, we've been able to give probably well over tens of thousands of dollars towards those causes because we've had a paid off mortgage. Mm-hmm. And so God, I believe in his infinite wisdom, seems to be able to use one of them to help solve the other, Yes. And the other thing is that just because you hear one person say, oh, I prayed about this and I saw the answer to my prayer, doesn't mean that they aren't praying about a whole lot of other things behind the scenes. Yeah. Just because they tell you one story... Yeah. This goes across the board. I'm not even talking about social media, but social media is definitely one of those places because you can hear a lot of different people saying a lot of different things. Mm-hmm. But it does make me sad that they think I don't care about, or we don't care about anything else other than paying off our mortgage or getting out of debt. Yeah. That's a real bummer because the only reason we're interested in that is to advance God's kingdom on the earth. Yeah, it's by far our highest priority and focus financially. And it wasn't always, which is a whole nother interesting component of this, because there have been times where we prayed for things and it's like, what's that one verse? Is that in James where it says, you don't get what you pray because you're asking according to your selfish desires. Yeah. Where we've had that. We've been in those situations. Yeah. And there's a maturing process that we all go through. Mm-hmm. And I think there have been prayers that weren't answered because our hearts weren't pure with them. Yeah. And so anyway, all that to say, there's another point here that I think is worth making, is that I believe if we look at how infinitely big and wise and strategic God is in everything, we have to understand that he's playing chess and we're playing checkers. And so what he is doing, the scale and scope on which he's thinking about things.
It's actually a much bigger leap than
yes.
those two. If we're
you
being
you
real
get the
honest,
point.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, but
Yes.
there are so many things in our vantage point from our tiny little view that just don't make any sense.
Yeah.
And our limiting thinking will never be able to understand or comprehend. But the fact is that if God is love, like it says in 1 John, if he is love, then we can trust that his intentions are pure. And that he's just playing chess at a higher level that we can't understand, you know? And so, anyway, I guess with all that, my question is, could it be possible that our, according to this person, our superficial and selfish prayers to get our mortgage paid off, like actually could be the vehicle that God could use to answer some of those deeply significant problems and prayers that are happening all over the world? And I believe that it is.
Yeah.
And I believe that's what he's doing,
Yeah.
So.
Well, and also to give you fuel, like if you are wrestling with this at all, I mean, it's really easy to be like, all this stuff that's going on in Israel, you know what I mean? It's really hard to just walk through life. I was laying in bed last night just thinking about it. I'm like, God, I have other stuff on my mind, if I'm being honest. Like, I'm not sitting around thinking about that all the time.
Yeah.
I'm taking care of my kids, or we're, making dinner, or, there's just daily things that I'm doing. While on the other side of the world, there is such turmoil, tragedy, unjust behavior and actions going on. And it's really hard to feel like, am I allowed to laugh right now while this stuff is going on? Am I allowed to, it's just always going on. Like we're getting bombarded by this information of what's going on in Israel. And I think that that's good, that we should all be aware and whatever. But there are a lot of things that we have no idea that is going on that are just as awful. And because it's not in our face or whatever, then people can't condemn us for it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there needs to be things going on behind the scenes in our own hearts and in our own lives of how can we solve this problem being cushy Americans, as far as I'm concerned. That's pretty much what it feels like.
Yeah.
For us, this is the way that we are trying to do that.
Yeah. No, I was just praying today. I had a little prayer time before this whole podcast recording, and that was one of the things I was just praying about. I was walking through this field. So we live in Franklin, Tennessee. There's all kinds of Civil War stuff and battles that were fought here. And so I'm walking through this battlefield, and there's all these little signs, historical markers, like showing what happened and stories of things that happened. And I'm reading these stories about some of these soldiers who, were fighting these battles, and they didn't have shoes, and they didn't
my gosh.
And
it's the winter.
It's just unimaginable. And then there's this one ship that went down 50 years before the Titanic that actually was the worst maritime disaster ever, where the POWs from the Civil War, I guess the Northerners that were in the South, those POWs, when they were setting them free in 1865, they put them all on a ship. 2,000 of them that were on a ship that was designed to hold 300 people. Anyway, the ship, the boilers exploded,
oh my gosh.
and so 1,700 people on this ship died. And my point, I guess, in all of this was I was just having the realization. It's like, oh man, we have it so good. We have it so good. I'm like,
way to bring us down, Bob.
Even on my worst day. No, but that, it's trying to bring us up. Is that even on my worst day, it's like, wow. Compared to what a lot of people in the history of the world have dealt with, it's like, I am so clueless, and I am so in a bubble. And anyway, and that led to thankfulness, and I was thanking God for that. And it's like, it's not fair. It is not fair that I was born in this time. It's not fair that we got our house paid off. It's like, none of this stuff is fair. I deserve to be in hell. That's what I deserve. But Jesus has rescued me and set me free. I'm so thankful for that. And then there's all these other blessings. And I have a wonderful wife, and I have 3 wonderful kids. And all this stuff that just isn't fair. And the only thing that I know how to do is to be thankful for it. Like feeling guilty about it isn't going to do any good for anyone. And I honestly think that's probably what the enemy would want, is that I would just feel guilty about it and mope around and feel bad.
Yeah.
But the best thing that I think we can do is give God the glory and to be thankful and grateful for it. So Blossom, she said that she is grateful for us. We are grateful for you.
Yeah.
So thank you. And Robin, I'm grateful for you coming to hang out as well.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts? Let's see how long of a silence
I don't know.
we have.
I know. That was a little awkward. I'm sorry for the listeners.
No, I don't think it's awkward.
There.
It's suspense. It's
suspense.
like what's coming next.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, it makes me sad to see people like this that are just so upset. And I will say, I think that possibly a lot of people who are throwing out those types of comments are the ones that probably feel helpless. They feel like they'd like to help these other causes and they can't.
Yeah.
And I think if we could just reach out and minister to them, our story would be, we watched God do this so that we could fix some of those problems that have been on our heart for years and years and years. And why don't you come along this journey with us and you do it too?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway,
that's your thought for today. And appreciate those of you coming out to hang out with us live. We are doing this live every Thursday at 1 p.m. Central. If you ever want to come out, listen to us record some of these episodes live, love to have you. If you haven't given us a review on iTunes or anywhere else you listen to podcasts, we would appreciate that because that's super helpful. And find your favorite episode, share it with a friend, post it to Instagram and tag us. We'd love to say hi to you over there as well. And you did a lip smack like you got something.
Go off and pray for these things that are on your heart. I mean, that's kind of how we want to leave this episode, right? It's like go pray and ask God what you should be doing. The things that are on your heart.
I think one other point. Let's get to this real quick. So I think within that, don't feel bad that you can pray for two very different things.
Yeah.
And again, like God is smart enough that he can connect the dots. There's nothing wrong with praying to be debt free. There's nothing wrong to pray for you to move forward financially. And while you're doing that, pray that God reveal your heart. And so you can make sure that your everything you're doing is in line with his will and what he desires for you. And we'll end it like that.
Yeah.
All right.
Amen.
Have a great one. See y'all next time.